Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, hi, my name is Sydney. I film cruelty-free beauty videos Tuesdays, Thursday, Saturday, and lately I've been filming on Sunday too, which has been really awesome. But today's video is all about the new Persona Identity 2 palette. This is the palette right here that I just jabbed into my cheek and probably took a chunk of my foundation out with. But this is the Identity Palette's one older, slightly more colorful, a little bit more sultry sister. This palette retails for $42, and of course I bought this with my own money, so all thoughts and opinions are my own. And here is what she looks like. Isn't it so beautiful, you guys? So beautiful. So I do want to quickly mention Persona's processing and shipping procedures. So I ordered my palette at like 11:08 I think last Thursday. Not only was it shipped by 12:30, but it was at my apartment the next following Monday. So it only took like 3 or 4 days to get here. I'm in Michigan, they're all the way in California, so I say that is pretty darn impressive, especially for an indie brand. I feel like a lot of indie brands that I order from, it's a little bit of a longer processing time than I'm normally used to. But this one was absolutely fantastic. It was packed so well. It was packed with a lot of bubble wrap, so I wasn't afraid that anything was gonna break or shatter, and I just really like it. So I do want to know a couple of the differences between this palette and the Identity 1 palette. This one, the biggest difference that I immediately noticed at first was the price tag. The original Identity 1 palette was $32, this one was $42. I did watch a live that Sona and her husband did about this palette, and they said that the cost just increased because this product is made in the US, and of course you guys know it's expensive to make things in the US, and it's just become more expensive over the past couple years. And also they switched to plastic packaging, which is the next difference that I wanted to talk about. They claimed that they wanted to switch to plastic packaging because I think people were complaining about the cardboard packaging a little bit, and they had noticed that some of the pans weren't always super straight. Apparently it's just something in manufacturing that just happens with cardboard palettes. They can't always put the pans in super straight. They're not all super the same. They're not all completely uniform. But yeah, other than that, I think those are all the differences that I wanted to note on this palette. I'm going to insert some swatches right here so you guys can see these beautiful shades together. I would say that this is still a pretty neutral palette overall, but it does have some fun kind of jewel tone pops of color that I think make this palette really great for every day, but also great for when you kind of want to step it up a bit. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit more in the outro of this video, but for now, let's hop into application. Alright guys, so we're zoomed really up close, really personal. I've been watching back my tutorials or just like the little application clips that I insert into my videos, and I feel like they're a little bit too far away, so we're going to try this today. Let me know if you guys like it. The camera is literally like 5 inches away from my face, so definitely a little bit close, a little bit personal. I wanted it to be kind of like this, but then I'd have to be like 2 inches from the camera, so we're not going to do that. So I have already prepped my lids with my MAC paint pot. I haven't set it, so I'm sure it's creasing just a little bit. So we're going to dip into the Identity 2 palette, obviously. And I think I'm going to take a little bit of the shade Kind right here on a fluffy brush and just pat out those creases that I have on my lid really quick with my finger. Just lightly buff this shade over it. I have actually only tried Persona's matte formula. I have the Color Theory kit in pink, and that one is a fully matte palette, and I really do enjoy their matte formula. I think I got a little bit on the lid on this eye, so I'm just going to do the same on this eye really quick. Their mattes are very pigmented, they blend really nicely, and I'm a bit conflicted on whether or not I should do more of a warm toned look with kind of these really pretty like coppery shades and that terracotta shade, or if I should do something with the green and the gold. I'm kind of thinking the green and the gold, they're really calling to me. But I am kind of thinking about doing a 3 looks 1 palette video or just some more tutorials with this palette, either on my Instagram or on my YouTube channel. I'm not sure. Instagram's always linked down below if you guys are ever curious about it. But I don't know, I just feel kind of creative tonight. I'm going to dip into Loyal with that same fluffy brush, and I'm just going to start putting this in the crease as kind of a transition shade. Okay, the mirror in this palette is fantastic, you guys. It's what I'm using to apply my eyeshadow throughout this video. This palette is like the perfect size to just kind of hold in your hand. It's not heavy, my wrist isn't getting tired. The mirror is super clear. So far, so good with these mattes. It's blending really nicely. They are a bit powdery, so there's a little bit of kick up in the pan, but I feel like that's normal at this point. Most of the matte formulas on the market are a little bit powdery. That just makes them more pigmented and blend easier. I'm winging this out as I normally do. You guys know it's my favorite shape right now. And then I am just going to take a bare fluffy brush. This one's from AOA Studio. It's the E130. I'm just going to buff over those edges. Okay, that blended out really, really nicely, just like all my other Persona Cosmetics shadows have. So now I'm going to take this kind of paddle blending-ish brush shade. This one's the AOA Studio E129. And I think I'm going to dip into the shade right here called Brave. I just love the names of these shadows, you guys. I watched her, I think she did like a Facebook Live where she talked about naming these shadows. She's like, oh yeah, I really wanted these to be like affirmations because you're looking at your makeup while you're getting ready, and if you don't have a lot of makeup or if you reach for the same products a lot, you're looking at these shade names a lot, or these palette names, and she wanted these to be kind of positive affirmations and good ways to start out your day, and I just thought that was really, really awesome. This shadow is pigmented, but not in a way that is scary. I don't feel like I have to be crazy careful with the amount that I'm going in with. I do tap the excess off my brush between when I dip it in the pan and when it goes on my eyes, just because that's kind of habit for me at this point. That's kind of my eyeshadow routine. And I'm going to kind of concentrate this mostly in the outer corner. I'm going to flick it out a little bit. Don't worry about it being neat. We're going to clean it up in a minute. But I do just want to darken this area and add some contrast. And then once I have less product on my brush, I am going to bring this inward a little bit. I think we're going to do a cut crease today, even though I feel like this is not a super dramatic makeup palette. This is more of a, at least in my eyes, at least not having played with it, I feel like this is much more of a like smudgy, smoky, 2-3 shadow looks, run out the door kind of palette rather than something you spend hours creating and it's super intricate. Alright, so I feel like I'm getting kind of a line in my crease right here, and I can't tell if that's this brush or these shadows. So I'm going to go in with that fluffy brush that we applied Loyal with, and I'm just going to run this through my crease to help blend that darker brown out. Yeah, these blend so easily. Now I'm just going in with a little bit more of Brave and just kind of re-intensifying that, because while this does blend super easy, I feel like it blended away some of the depth. And then I'm just going to go in with the fluffy brush once again, but this time I'm going to stick closer to the edges of where we put that, kind of more in my upper crease, so we don't want to lose that depth again. So obviously I caught my other eye up and I'm looking a little crazy at the moment, but don't worry, it's all going to come together in the end. I always clean up the edges of my eyeshadow anyway, so don't worry about that. I know I look a little bit like a raccoon right now, but it'll all come together in the end. And so at this point, I think I want to cut my crease. And to do so, I am going to use my e.l.f. 16-Hour Camo Concealer, and then I'm going to take my favorite cut crease brush, and this is the Shop Miss A, what is this called? E122. This is my absolute favorite. I just love the shape of it. I think it really works with my eye shape for cutting my crease. But I'm just going to load some concealer up on the brush, and then I'm just going to work on carving out my crease. I'm only bringing the concealer about halfway across my lid, and then when I reach that halfway point, I'm just going to take my finger and I'm just going to kind of dab over it to help it blend into that deep brown shadow. So now I want to go in with the shade that's going to be the star of this look, and that is the shade called Unique. Sona really raved about this shade in her announcement live that I watched as being kind of a statement shade in the palette, and this palette's pretty tame, so I would say that this is definitely a statement shade in the palette. And I'm going to start pressing this on my lid. Oh, look at that shine, you guys. This brush is the same brush that I use with my concealer, so it may have a little bit of product left on it, but otherwise it is a dry brush. I didn't put glitter glue down. Normally I would when I do a look like this because I do have some issues with transfer because my eyes are a little bit hooded, but I wanted to see how these shadows would perform without a glitter glue. They're picking up pretty nicely with a brush. I am having to dip back into the pan a little bit, but I'm not really upset about that. So I'm just taking my time building this shadow up a little bit. I think it would look really, really beautiful if we wet it, and maybe we'll do that in a second. But I wanted to get a feel for how these shadows are dry. I do want to note though, when I was doing the swatches, I noticed that this is one of the more like super metallic shadows in the palette. I feel like some of the other shimmer shades are more of a satin finish, so just keep that in mind. They may not all be this intense. And then next, I'm actually going to use the same brush. I'm just going to wipe it off on my makeup eraser. And then next, I'm going to dip into the shade called Driven. It's this beautiful deep emerald green. This is the first shadow that they kind of sneak peeked, and I was like immediately intrigued when I saw this shade. And I'm going to start placing this right at the edge of that concealer where the yellow and the brown meet. I'm gonna start kind of feathering this into the matte shade first, and then I will take whatever's left on the brush and feather it inward towards the yellow. I'm actually wanting to bring this in a little bit further, so I'm going to take a little bit more of Driven, and I'm just going to start feathering it in a little bit more inward towards the yellow. And then I'm going to flip my brush over, dip back into Unique. Tap off the excess because we want a very small amount for this little blending process. I'm just going to overlap those two. Oh, I bet these two together, because I can kind of see where they're meeting in the middle right here, would make the most gorgeous like olive green shade. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to take the AOA Studio E129 brush that we had that dark brown on. I'm not going to take any more product, but I'm just going to feather this along the edges of where that green meets the matte brown to make sure we have a nice seamless blend. So just for kicks and giggles, I do want to try Unique Wet. So I'm just going to, I don't know why I'm trying to hold the palette upside down. I'm just going to get a little bit of this on my brush, and then I'm going to take a little bit of my Cover FX Illuminating Setting Spray, and we're just going to wet it a little bit just to see if these perform more intensely wet. I mean, I'm sure it will. Most eyeshadows do. But we're just going to place that on this very inner portion right here. I feel like it's a very slight difference. It's nothing too crazy. So these metallics are, like I said while I was applying them, these metallics are already kind of pretty foiled. So I don't find that wetting your brush is absolutely necessary, at least with this yellow shade Unique. But if you want to amp it up just a little bit, it does provide a little va-va-voom. I think it also helped crisp up that line right there for my half cut crease. So I think that's going to be it for the eyes right now. I am going to go in with my makeup eraser, clean things up a little bit, do the rest of my face makeup, and then we'll come back for the lower lash line. I am back with the rest of my face done. So we're going to start on the lower lash line, and I'm going to start with the shade Loyal on this chubby pencil brush. This one from AOA Studios. It's the E132, and I'm going to start smoking this under my lower lash line, taking it down pretty far. And I was thinking while I was doing my makeup, like, what do I want to do with my lower lash line? Do I want to be a simple Sally and just do the green and the gold again? And I'm like, well, that's really not testing out that many more shades out of this palette. So I think I'm going to dip into some of the warmer tones, and I'm going to pray that this works. But I think it's going to come together and look really, really pretty, really like turning into fall appropriate, which I'm in denial that fall is coming because I don't want summer to end yet. I feel like it's flying by so fast, but I do love fall makeup, you guys. I did a ton of like fall makeup focused videos last year, and I'm just not feeling quite so inspired this year. But I mean, it's still August, so I still have time to get inspired, but I feel like I was already like, yeah, I'm ready for fall at this point, but not quite yet this year. So I think I have that to the smokiness level of where I want it. I think I'm going to start by taking that flat kind of paddle fluffy brush, the E129 from Shop Miss A, and I'm going to dip into the shade Brave, keeping it on the very, very tip, and I'm going to smoke that out in my outer corner just a little bit, trying to keep it close-ish to the lower lash line, just to connect it to that wing a little bit. And then I'm just going to take the bare fluffy brush that we've been using this whole time, and I'm just going to smoke that out a little bit. Don't you guys just love when I talk like this while I'm blending my eyeshadow? Oh, okay. So I think I want to start using some of the warmer shades now. I'm trying to decide if I want to start with this plummy shade and then maybe transition into this and then back into the gold. I think that's what we're going to end up doing. So I'm just going to take my little Real Techniques smudge brush, and I'm going to dip into the shade Confident right here, which is this pretty deep metallic plum shade. And I'm going to start smoking this under my lower lash line in the outermost part. I'm going to bring it in about halfway, but definitely concentrating the most product on the outer corner. All right, I feel like that just kind of totally blended in with the dark brown, but that's okay. I'm going to flip my brush over and I'm going to dip into the shade Empowered right here, which is this beautiful like cranberry-ish copper shade. This is one of my favorite shades to wear on my eyes, and I know this is going to be one that I just wear to death with this palette. And I'm going to start putting this kind of in the center portion of my lid, blending it inward. I'm bringing it on the inner portion of my lower lash line, but not quite in my inner corner. And then I'm just going to wipe this brush off a little bit on my makeup eraser. And then I'm going to dip into the shade Unique, and that's the shade that we popped all over our lid. And I'm going to smudge this on the inner portion of my lower lash line and overlap it with that Empowered shade. I'm just going to go in with that little pencil brush that we used at first. It's the E132 from Shop Miss A, and I'm just going to lightly buff over the edges of those shades with no additional product on the brush. It's not quite as vibrant as what I was imagining in my head, but I think it's pretty. And then we're going to do our inner corner highlight, and for that I'm going to take my e.l.f. small precision brush and I'm going to dip into the shade Honest right here. You guys, I was so excited when I swatched this one because this looks very, very similar to the shade Puppy from ColourPop. It's a super shock shadow. And that is one of my favorite shades, like, ever. It's like this soft cream shade with like a beautiful peachy undertone and like this pink reflect. And I think this is very reminiscent of that. So I'm so excited to see it in the palette. I do kind of wish there was a little bit of a brighter highlighty shade because, I mean, you guys can kind of see on my skin tone, this isn't doing a whole lot to brighten up my inner corners. It's definitely giving them a little bit of a sheen. But I like an even brighter inner corner highlight, so just keep that in mind if you guys have fair skin like I do. And then for our brow bone, I think I'm just going to take a mixture of Honest and Kind because I like my brow bone highlight to be really subtle, really soft, and I'm just going to pop that on the brow bone. Alright, you guys, I'm going to hop off camera, apply mascara and a lip product, and then I'm going to come back and share my thoughts. Alright guys, so this is the completed look. I will insert the obligatory awkward beauty YouTuber slow-mo look thingy at the end right here, so you guys can get a little bit of a closer look at this look. I am pretty darn happy with how this turned out. I think the shadows performed really, really well. I do have some thoughts though about this palette that I do want to share with you guys. Of course, this is just my first impressions, but there will be a couple days between when I'm filming this video and when I'm posting it. So if I have any more revelations, I'll be sure to leave them in the description box below. And I will also probably throw this palette in a review roundup video in the next couple weeks. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for that. Overall, I had a very, very pleasant experience with this palette. I think the colors are really pretty. I think the formula is very nice, very easy to work with. One thing I do want to note about this color story is not that it's not pretty and not that it's not functional, but this is like an everyday life palette, which I feel like is weird for me to have to say on camera, but I know that a lot of you watching, well, I know some of you watching at least, are makeup junkies like myself, and you have a very large collection already. And sometimes we buy repeat palettes, sometimes we just get in that groove and we're like, oh, this is a beautiful palette, I love it, I want it. And we don't always think about whether or not it's unique to our collection. This palette is definitely not unique to my collection, but I bought it because I wanted to support Persona and Sona and her husband, and I really love the company, so I of course wanted to support them in that way. But I just want you to know that this is not the most crazy unique palette in the world. This is a really great everyday kind of life palette. I can see myself creating really, really beautiful, effortless, simple, fast, quick, everyday looks with this palette. And I can also see myself creating some more smoky eyes. Maybe not quite a smoky eye like this with the whole cut crease and all that, but something very simple where I put this in the crease, this in the outer corner, this all over the lid, and I run out the door. It's very easy, very simple looks. It's a very everyday woman-friendly palette, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I feel like sometimes these palettes get like dragged through the mud in the beauty world right now because we're like, oh, we've seen that before, that's been there, done that, boring. And yes, we may have similar things, but these still hold a special place in our makeup collection. They definitely serve a function, and I believe these may appeal more to the everyday woman than, for example, my Whale Song palette that I also just bought. Formula wise, I really like it. Packaging wise, I like that this is plastic. It feels pretty sturdy. I would have been okay with cardboard, but she mentioned in her video that things just weren't as quite as precise with cardboard as they wanted it to be, so they moved on to plastic. And I'm not sure if I'm going to mention this in the intro or not, so I want to mention it now just in case I don't forget. She also mentioned that since they're switching to plastic and plastic isn't quite as environmentally friendly, they're starting a program where you can send your empty palette back to Persona, back to the manufacturer, and they will use it to make new palettes. And I think that's so incredible, so commendable. I just love this company so much, and I was just super happy about that. And I wish more brands would start doing that. Another thing that I did want to note is that this palette is white. So I feel like it did get a little bit dirty while I was kind of doing my makeup, so I do want to try to kind of wipe it off on camera with you guys. Oh yeah, this part was all dirty before. I just used my little makeup eraser and it came right off. I think the mirror in this palette is incredible, you guys. This is one of those palettes where it doesn't go all the way back, it only goes back this far, which is amazing because this is like the perfect angle to use it and do your makeup on. I did my entire face of makeup using this mirror today. It's very clear, it's very large. I love it a whole lot, you guys. So that's gonna wrap this video up. Final overall thoughts. Formula-wise, I think this palette is wonderful. I really like the packaging and I really stand behind this company, but know that this color story is not going to be anything crazy unique to your collection. So just keep that in mind when you're buying this. This is a very, very everyday makeup friendly palette. I think it would be amazing for travel. It's great for the everyday woman, but it's not maybe the most unique thing that a makeup junkie like myself or possibly you would add to their collection. So just keep that in mind. So thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on any more videos from me. And that's gonna wrap it up today. So I'll see you in my next one. Bye!